Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. And all glories to our repeat speaker for today, His Grace, SALIKA Prabhu, who needs no further introduction. Today is a very special day because today is the last day of Kartik, which is also the last day of Bhishma Panchaka, when Sri Bhishma Dev was fasting on the arrows of the to finally leave his body. So may we all be blessed by Sri Bhishma Dev, the Parampara, and the Supreme Lord himself. So, SALIKA Prabhu, we're going to put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam. Narayana. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narayana Narottamam Devi Sarasvati Vyasam Tatujaya Mudiraye Nasta Praisu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 4. We're reading today text number 22. In just a minute.
SALIKA Prabhu, we cannot hear you. Are you still there?
Yes, just a minute. I'm just trying to dress my tea light. So. Yatra Narayana O Devo Naras Chabagawan Rishi Merido Tivram Tapo Brigam Te Pate Loka Pavano. Yatra Narayana Devo Naras Chabagawan Rishi Meriduti Vranta Podrigam Taipate Loka Bhavanam. Word for word translation. Yatra, where? Narayana, the personality of God. Deva, by incarnation. Nara, human being. Cha, also. Bhagavan, the Lord. Rishi, great sage. Meriduhu, unable to everyone. Tivraham, severe. Tapaha, penance. Trikam, very long. Tepate, performing. Lokabhavana, welfare of all living entities. Translation and purpose by Evangelist Prabhupada. There in Badarika Sharma, the personality of God in his incarnation as the sages Nara and Narayan Rishi has been undergoing great penance since the time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Badarika Ashram in the Himalayas, the abode of the Nara Narayan sages, It's a great place of pilgrimage for the Hindus. Even up to the present, hundreds and thousands of pious Hindus go to pay respects to the incarnation of Godhead, Narayan. It appears that even 5,000 years ago, this holy place was being visited by such a holy being as Uddhava. And even at that time, the place was known to be very, very old. This particular pilgrimage site is very difficult to visit for ordinary men because of its difficult situation in the Himalayas, in a place which is covered by ice almost all year. A few months during the summer season, people can visit this place at great personal inconvenience. There are 4 dharmas or kingdoms of God, which represent the planet of the sky, spiritual sky, which consists of the Brahma Jyoti and the Vaikunthas. These are Badarika Ashram, Rameshwara, Jagannath Puri, and Dwaraka. Faithful Hindus still visit all these holy places for perfection of spiritual realization, following in the footsteps of devotees like Uddhava. Hare Krishna. Omagyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shalakaya Shaksho Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadama Yam Tadati Sampadantikam Vandyam Sri Guru Sri Yutam Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganam Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadvitam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitam Shah Hare Krishna Karuna Shindudina Bandhu Jagalpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamchana Gaurangi Radivim Davaneshwari Vrisha Banushute Devi Anamami Hari Priya Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagante Girim Yat Kripatam Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Vancha Karpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Ivascha Patitanam Pavashnevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Shri Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama the verse again. There in Badarika Ashram, the personality of God in his incarnation as the sages, Nara and Narayana, has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. Hare Krishna. So their devotees will welcome everyone to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today is a very auspicious day. Before we start speaking, once again, we want to beg for we offer obeisances to all of the Vaishnava Acharyas in the disciplic succession, to all of the wonderful devotees who have gathered here this evening, Nigerian time, to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, and to all of the devotees in general. We sought and pray for their blessings that we might be able to render this service for the glory of our spiritual master and the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of God. So we continue our reading of Uddhava's pilgrimage. And here we're talking about his visit to a particular specific holy place. In the Vedic culture, the holy places are places that are scripturally referenced. Sometimes when we talk about the holy places, sometimes I ask, where in the whole of the Krishna's creation that is not holy? Because generally, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Chatusloki verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava Mata Sarva Prabhata Te Iti Matua Bhajanti Mam Buddha Bhava Samavita. About everything animate and inanimate is coming from me. Everything is coming from him. And everything is residing in him. And Lord Krishna concluded by telling Arjuna in that verse that those who understand this, they surrender unto him. But the reality is that every manifested or unmanifested places or existence in this universe is coming from the Lord. And in the invocation of the Apostolic, he said, Om Punam Ada Punam 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 Buddhasyate. Punam Punam Adaya Punam Ivava Shishyate. That everything that is coming from the Lord is perfect because himself is a perfect personality. And every atom, every manifestation of him is perfect in themselves. So sometimes the question is, so why do we call some places holy and some places not holy places? What makes a place particularly holy? In the verse we're reading today, with the glorification of a holy place called Badarika Ashram, where it is said that the Lord, who in his incarnation as Nara and Narayan, are undergoing austerity. That is what is being portrayed here in this verse as this reason for it being a holy place. But when we look at it critically, even in the Bible tells us that this body that we carry is a temple of God. So if the body is a temple of God, as it is mentioned in the Bible and in all of the scriptures, in the book of 1 Corinthians, it is mentioned like that the body, this human body, is a temple of God. And something is a temple of God, then it must be holy. So what makes the unholiness? Why do we go to a particular place of pilgrimage? Why do we consider some place holy and the other place is not holy? Because everything is emanating from the supreme same source. And himself has said that everything emanating from me is perfect. And here, Prabhupada is giving us an explanation of the purport that even 5,000 years ago, this place is considered a holy place. Why? Because it is understood that people have been going there even as at that time, a long time, as a place of holy place. So the question then is, why do we consider some specific place as holy? Is it because the Lord appeared in those particular places? Srila Prabhupada, in one of his purports, he explained that it is not that Krishna can only appear in the land of Braj, in India. Krishna appears anywhere. And our dear spiritual master said, I will not spend my last days and I will not rest my body in Vrindavan. I want to stay in the West because wherever a devotee is, it is considered to be holy. When we build the temple, when we build the churches, when we build the holy places of worship, we call them a place of worship. But those places are made by the same ingredient of cement, block, marbles, and what have you. So what really then is the holy that makes those places holy? Because we cannot say in the temple in the remote place of Nairobi, or in the remote place of Lagos, or in the northern central place in Jos, where the Lord is standing on the deity as his deity form, is considered to be a holy place because the Lord is physically there. And we understand that the deity is not different from Krishna. So then what is the difficulties in considering that place to be holy? Why do we have to go to the holy places when Uddhava decided to go on holy pilgrimage and is visiting all of these places? Lord Balaram, at the beginning of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when he decided to play a neutral position, of course, Krishna also played a neutral position. Sometimes people say Krishna takes part in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but Krishna was playing a neutral place because he gave his army to one side and he himself stayed on one side. So he was neutral, he supported the both parties. But Balaram was going to not be part of the war, so he decided to be neutral and he goes on holy places. And then it is recorded in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in the Mahabharata how he went to so many holy places, Vishnu temples where Krishna has performed his leelas. So my question now is then that if all of these places, because the Lord was there, does it mean that the Lord is not in other places that are not called holy? What makes them unholy? There was a conversation some time ago. One artist, he built a house and he put a gold-plated ornament everywhere in the house. And even in the bathroom, his bathtub is WC in the bathroom. It's all tinted gold. And somebody was asking, why is he putting that gold there? Because that is place of where you excrete. Nobody stays in the bathroom. Because it's considered to be not very important place, part of the building. So in the same way, the whole material gigantic creation is part and parcel of Krishna. Nothing exists without Krishna. So we explore some places as being holy. Why? Because Krishna appeared there. Then the question is, where Krishna did not appear, what makes them unholy? Because it's also coming from Krishna. So the significance here that this text is trying to make us understand is the reality that those places they're said to be very powerful because they have the effects of removing the misconduct or the reactions of misconduct or sinful activities in the life of a person in this life or past lives, and they bestow spiritual places. So the places of holy pilgrimage, they are said to be powerful because when one visits those places, it has the capacity, it has the efficacy, it has the potency to be able to purify a person who goes to those places. In New York, where Srila Prabhupada stayed when he was starting the mission, is sacredly kept intact and is being preserved. And devotees across the globe who has the opportunity, they go to these places, they go and pray. And when they get there, they feel the potency of Srila Prabhupada. So in Badarika Ashram, and Prabhupada mentioned 4 places in the purport of this verse. He said, these places are considered the 4 dharmas or kingdoms of God. He uses the word kingdoms of God, which represent the planet of the spiritual sky, which consists of the Brahma, Jyoti, and the Vaikunthas. And he mentioned Badarika Ashram, Rameshwara, Jagannath Puri, and Dwaraka. Thank you. So these particular places, they are very unique because they represent this. So the point here is that these places of pilgrimage where the Lord or his devotees take appearance have a unique, significant potency. But in the end, when we analytically study this, we realize that the only places is made only because of the consciousness of the individuals. The reality is that no place in the whole world is holy. No place in the whole existence is holy unless the consciousness of the person. Recently, when I visited India, and it's a very interesting experience for me, I've always had this euphoria of having opportunity to go to the bank of Yamuna, where Krishna plays his pastimes. And I think I've shared that story sometimes back. And when I got there, I was very eager. I got to Vrindavan in the night. And in the morning, immediately after Mangalati, I said, yes, please, can somebody take me? And my dear senior brother, Ishwara Prabhu said, okay, let's go. We'll go on parikram of the Vrindavan. And then we'll go through the Yamuna River. And then, so I was so eager. And when I got to a particular place, immediately I got to a place, I said, which one is this river here? He said, this is Yamuna. Before he finished saying, this is Yamuna River, I jumped behind him and I jumped into it and I was pouring the water on my head. And I was about sipping the water. He dragged me from behind. Said, what are you doing? I said, Prabhu, for maybe millions of years, I've taken birth, but I've been meditating, at least in this life. I may not remember the other one, but I've been meditating. I want to come to Yamuna River. I want to touch the water of Yamuna. The scriptures have so glorified Yamuna River that I'm so eager. So opportunity to come to Yamuna, to touch water, River Yamuna, to taste the water of River Yamuna is something that I've been longing for millions of years. But at least, if I cannot even remember that in this very lifetime, at least for 3-4 decades, I've been meditating on this. So I want to zip it. Why are you stopping me, Prabhu? Is it a crime? Is there any particular way I'm supposed to do it? He said, no, you are not understanding. He said, yeah, there is shit, there is stool, there's everything there. The principles, they go there, they stool. If you want to touch the water of Yamuna, you have to go up the other side. When you go to the other side, that place is purified. I said, is Yamuna 2 rivers? He said, no, it's the same thing, but this place, there is so much of stool and there is physics there. And I was laughing. And that I meditated on this several days, several months after I left Vrindavan. Why? Because in my consciousness, when I was going there, I was seeing only Yamuna. I was not seeing any physics. But because he was resident in Vrindavan and he sees what goes on every day, then immediately he could distinguish this is right, this is not right. So ultimately, when we talk of holy places, even when Krishna himself is physically present, and we see in the story of the Mahabharata, during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, each and every one of us are struggling and praying to have a darshan of Krishna in our presence. But there are millions of soldiers who are standing in front of Krishna carrying arrow to shoot him. Even in a dream, even in a drunken state, I don't think any one of us will dare to even think in that direction, not to talk of acting in a way to do anything to directly attack Krishna. So the difference between holy and unholy is simply one thing: the consciousness of the individuals. One is a particular existence, a particular environment is holy or holy based on the consciousness of the beholder. Although there is a uniqueness that Krishna appeared in a particular place, that Krishna appeared in this place, then it becomes an holy place. But the reality is that when we look holistically, taking from the verses that I started with, in a lecture, sometimes I was telling everybody, we went on the conference, and then the topics of the conference is that finding solutions to our degrading world. And when it gets to my turn, my first sentence was that there is nothing degrading about this world. And it took a lot of caution for somebody not to slap me, because no one could understand, what do you mean by this world is not degraded? With all of this war going on, with all of these killings going on, with all of this violence, with all of these kind of things, and you say this world is not degrading, how can you say such a thing? And I quoted and I recited in English that verse, that everything animate and inanimate that is coming from it is perfect. Everything is perfectly. This world, imperfect, so-called imperfect world, is a perfect manifestation of the perfect supreme personality of Godhead. And the words of God cannot be said to be false. If it was not perfect, the scriptures will not tell us so. So what makes it imperfect? The consciousness of those who are in that environment. And that is why the pure devotees of the Lord can never see anything bad. In any circumstances, whatever they see only perfection. Everything going on according to, they see the lila of the supreme personality of God. So when we read verses like this in the scriptures, talking about the significance of holy places, of pilgrimage, one thing is to immediately desire or to think that it happens in every tradition. There was a story some few years back. It happens in the location where I'm staying here. Somebody committed murder just to get money because he wants to go to Mecca. Just because he wants to visit a place of holy pilgrimage to worship God, he commits murder. And we see that even in devotional service. There is no need to mention names, but I have witnessed, I've seen sometimes some devotees, in the name of trying to go to India, have committed so much atrocities, cheating, just to do what? Just to get money to go to India because they want to visit the holy place of pilgrimage. So as sadakas, as practitioners, as those who are trying to attain perfection on the path of Krishna consciousness, we need to understand that consciousness is what differentiates holy and unholy places. There is no doubt that the places where Krishna performs his lila, or the pure devotees appeared to preach the holy names, are sacred. But for a practitioner, because in Kali Yuga, one of the greatest challenge to spiritual growth is that what? That people no longer understand. I'll tell you a short story. I received a pastor in my temple just some few days, in fact, yesterday. This is a pastor outside. He has a church, he's ministering. He has some, but many persons he is ministering over. And he came to the Hare Krishna temple with one purpose. He said, I want to make money. And a friend has told me that if I come to Hare Krishna, I can become so rich. So I've left. He came from the neighboring state. He's not living in that state where I reside, the temple reside. And he said he has stayed for so many days trying to locate the temple. And finally, when he came, I said, what is what? He said, I want to make money by all means. And I said, for what purpose? Why do you need so much money? He said, I have so many dependents. I want to take care of them. He said, and I don't care whatever I have to sacrifice. I said, like what? He said, anything. And I told him a short story of somebody who came to the temple one time, who said he was ready to sacrifice his mother. He said, that person is the past. He said, even me, as I'm sitting before you, if you ask me to go and bring my mother now, or my wife, or my son, I'm ready. I just want to make this money. I said, but you just told me that you want to take care of your dependents. If you want to take care of the dependent, and you want to use that same dependent to make money, so what sense does it make? In the same way, in the purpose of trying to become holy, living entity become so unholy that by the level of the consciousness that they engage in such a very, very sinful activities. And when I was sharing that, immediately after that person left yesterday, and somebody was there with me in the temple, and I was saying, he said, but this, nothing happens by chance. You people, what exactly do you people do that makes people to see you like this? He said, yes, it is a wrong thing that people come here to ask you to come and do rituals. He said, but what is it that you people are doing that is making people to see you like this? He said, it's not about it. He said, you people have to start thinking, what is it that you people are doing that is giving you this kind of image? And we see this. Many of our devotees who have been trained, who have been given the arena. Srila Prabhupada came, Prabhupada gave us, Arainam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti, Eva Nasti, Eva Nasti Gati Yata. The only saving grace in Kali Yuga. Prabhupada told us the Chintamani is the only name. Whatever you desire. The Prabhupada did not say, okay, because you want to go to the kingdom of God. Prabhupada said, okay, even if you don't want to go to Krishna, whatever you want, just at least chant the holy name. Sukadev Goswami in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Akarma Sarva Kamova, Chakama Udaradi, Tifena Bhakti Yojana, Gajita Purusham Param. Whether you want power, whether you want opulence, whatever it is that you desire, just chant the holy name. And so why can't one just take shelter of the holy name? So even in our movement, we see that people, because of the material attachment, material conditioning, things that are the holy places is something outside of them. Krishna resides in each and every living entity's body, alongside the living entity. What can be more holier than that? And that is why the book of Corinthians, although the modern day Christians may not understand, but the book of Corinthians tells that the human body is a temple of God. In the 1 Corinthians 6:19, he said, your body is a temple of God. Where is the temple of God? Where God resides. And the purport, Srila Prabhupada is telling us, yes, that is 1 Corinthians chapter 6:19. And in this purport, Prabhupada is saying there are 4 dharmas uniquely. And he named them. And he said that these places, there are 4 dharmas or kingdom of, which represents the planet of the spiritual sky, which consists of the Brahma Jyoti and the Vaikuntha. And he mentioned them. He said, these holy places of perfection of spiritual realization. What makes those places spiritual places of realization? Because the Lord, Nara and Narayan is there. But that same Narayan is in the body of the living entity. In the Bhagavad Gita 18:61, Krishna specifically said, I'm seated in the heart of every living entity. So this holiest of holiest places, first and foremost, is your body, human body. So if this body is not sacred enough for you, how then can the Badarika Shrams start it? What is more difficult? Prabhupada is talking in the purport. It is so difficult to go to Badarika Ashram because of the weather there. Why? Because one speaker was speaking the other day, and 6 months in a year, that place is closed down. And even the remaining 6 months, if you go there, you have to go there with so many difficult. Prabhupada mentioned that in the purport. But what can be more difficult than in staying in this body? Everyone who is in this material body knows how difficult it is to exist in this body, because there's no one who exists in this world that does not experience one pain or the other pain in this body. And what is the purpose of this pain? to make us to be able to see the holiest of the holy that is residing in the body. And why did we go to Badarika Ashram, Rameshwara, Jagannath Puri? So that we can, with all the difficulties, so that we can see the holiest of the holiest, Krishna, in those places. So if one wants to go to Badarika Ashram, then he should go to the Badarika Ashram in the human body first. That is what is spirituality. That is what is Krishna consciousness. Krishna's consciousness begins when the living entity starts seeing the super soul in the heart of individuals. And that is why it is said to be the state of perfection. When one comes to that realization, when one comes to that level, when he's able to see the super soul in the heart, then he's actually said to have become a perfected soul. In the Yoruba adage, why go for something in 1,000 miles while you are not accomplishing the one that is 1 kilometer to you? So devotional service is so simple, but it's the most difficult things to attain. Why? Because when we read all of the scriptures, when we read all of these leelas, when we read all of these pastimes, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Paritanaya sadhuna vinashaya dvikristam dama samstapanataya sambhavami juge juge. I'm coming. Why? Because I want to do what? I want to reestablish religious principles, take care of these miscreants, and give pleasure to the devotees. What pleasure could be more than seeing the super soul in the heart of the living entity? In the Upanishad, it is mentioned. In the beginning of Brahma's Samhita, the Brahma is said, Ishwara Paraman Krishna Sakchit Ananda Vigraha. Anadi Adi Govinda Sarvakaranam Karana. Krishna is the supreme personality of God. And when he defines God, he said, Sakchit Ananda. That is the nature of God. And that is the nature of the living entity. So when we cannot get that which is within us, then how then can we go? So that is why so many persons in about a decade ago, 10, 20 years back, it is a common phenomenon in the temples. It becomes a mantra. And it was becoming like a kind of a taboo. Devotees were openly saying it, that whoever has gone to India among the devotees from this region part of the world, they come back to become more nonsense. And they were counting names, and it wasn't a force that they were counting so many names. I don't have to mention anybody's name, but we all know them. So many devotees went to India in the beginning when Krishna consciousness was starting in this part of the world. Whoever was sent to that place, they became more of a nonsense when they come back. Was it that that place was not making them not only holistic enough? No. Because they failed to see the Badarika Ashram here. In business, they said that only a foolish person goes into a business without having the knowledge of the business beforehand. There was a book written by Mukunda Maharaj. I'm trying to remember the name of that book. Visiting the holy, visiting Vrindavan. I've forgotten the name of. I'm trying to remember the name of that book now. Mukunda Maharaj wrote that book about Vrindavan, having to see Vrindavan before going to Vrindavan. He wrote that book. I'm forgetting the title of that book now. Maybe someone must have read it, that same book here. So several years back, I read those books. So consciousness is the missing link, Prabhupada said. So in whatever we do in the part of spiritual life, we have to understand that all of these activities are being performed by the Lord only for the purpose of raising the consciousness of the living entity. Otherwise, Krishna will come before us. He will even request to shake hands with us. We will not. And then Mother Radha Govinda was giving this, reminding of a story of the cobbler and the Brahmana some few days back. Consciousness is the missing link. Anyone can be a spiritual master. Anyone can become a brahmachari. Anyone can become a grihastha. Anybody can assume any title. Anybody can be named a paramahansa. But what makes the difference is the consciousness of the person. And that's what determines what that person sees and how he sees it and how he relates to it. So our advancement in Krishna consciousness is determined not by visiting the holy places, even though the holy places are sacred, but the first and foremost is that we should visit the holy place that is most closest to us, the region of the heart. Let us see what is in the heart first. And that is the lesson to be learned in this verse that as we read it. Today, we are rounding up a very holy ceremony of a whole 1 month. And on the Hare Krishna platform, there's a devotee that has been sharing on a daily basis the glories of Damodara Ashtakam. If someone offered Gilam once, some days he said, one who just think of Krishna once. In some of the days, he's quoted. And these are quotations from the various scriptures, from the Vedas, that one who just carried the light in front of the deities of Damodar in this month of Damodar, he goes back to God. Of all the millions and millions of persons who have put light before the deities of Damodar this year, how many of us are assured that after this body, we'll go back to Krishna? We cannot even convince ourselves. Why? Because it is not just about the rituals. It is about the consciousness behind it. And I like Prabhupada. Prabhupada was giving a lecture on one of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada said, yes, we talked about when a devotee engaged in chanting the holy name, he goes back just by chanting the name of Krishna once, a devotee goes back to God. He said, but we're talking about pure devotees. So the essence is that we should become a pure devotee. And becoming a pure devotee has to do with the consciousness that we carry in every of the activities. We can come to Bhagavatam daily. We can hear the Bhagavatam daily. We can associate with the Bhagavatam daily. But the consciousness in which we do it will determine the result that we get. And I'll round up with this story, a famous story. The story of a prostitute and a brahmachari in the temple. We may have heard this story several times. The brahmachari is always in the temple and is always offering gilam every day, doing arti in the temple. But every moment when he's doing the arti, he's always thinking, look at that prostitute. She's such a unfortunate person. How many men have slept with her today? Oh, the seventh man has gone in. Oh, he got more customers today. 20 customers are going in there today. That is his consciousness throughout the day. Meanwhile, the prostitute, although she's sleeping with so many men, sorry. Of course, in Kali Yuga now, women sleep with women. But then it was not that common. So the prostitute is constantly thinking, although she's receiving so many men and having relationship with them, bodily relationship, but she's constantly thinking, how unfortunate I am. Look at this brahmachari. She's fully dedicated to the service of the Lord. Every moment she's always worshiping the Lord. What an unfortunate person I am. I wish I had this opportunity, but my life is so doomed. I can only be a prostitute. I'm only counting how many women are coming to sleep with me every day. But see this brahmachari, and in this consciousness, when he quits her body, she went back to God, because she was constantly thinking of Krishna and Krishna's devotee. While the brahmachari, who is said to be as Paka brahmachari, offering gilam every day, he ended up going back to what? In the body of a prostitute in his next life. So this is the essence of this pastime, especially the particular verse that we're reading, that it is not just about the holy places. These holy places are uniquely significant, and opportunity to go to those places once is the greatest of all opportunities in life. But they become meaningless, they become useless if the consciousness is not in the right place. So as we round up today, the month of Damodar prayer is that some of us have done this Damodar month rituals for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, maybe 40 years, even 50 years. But at the end of this body, if we do not go back to Godhead, then it becomes a waste. So therefore, we should think, after this year's Damodar Staka, when I quit this body, I should be going back to Godhead. If we have that conviction in our heart, then we are really engaged in the rituals of Damodara Ashtakam. It is a beautiful month, the oldest of oldest month, and one who engages in this Bila of the Lord for the whole of the one is not supposed to take another birth in this material world again. But each and every one of us knows where we're going, because we know where our consciousness was as we light the lamp every day. What we're thinking, what we are saying, we are the witness to each and every one of us. Thank you very much for giving this support. I'll stop here and so open up for questions and comments. If anyone has some comment, thank you very much. I'll read the verse again. Once again, the verse says that Yantranaraya no devo naras jabagawan rishi mridu trivram tapu digam tapate lokabhavana. There in Badarikashram, the personality of Godhead, in his incarnation as the sages Nara and Narayana, has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. It's praise Prabhu. So we have His Grace Shimavara Acharya Prabhu. Please hear me on mute.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, please accept humble obeisances. All glories to God. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, SALIKA Prabhu, for a very highly motivated delivery. But there were so many things in your presentation. But the last one on the last statement you ended on provoked some questions. That if we have been following this Damodara month or Damodara Vat so many years, and then at the end of the day, at the end of our life, we don't go back to Godhead, it's a waste. I think that is contrary to what you just mentioned about the quotes, the several quotes the devotee is posting on the WhatsApp group. That just by holding the light, the lamp before the Lord, so many sins are destroyed and many other benefits. That's one. So if you consider it a waste, if you say it's a waste, if you don't go back to Godhead, this life, then all those quotations, what are they meant for? Then also, of course, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, a little effort on this part cannot go in vain, may have become an associate. So please, can you reconcile your statement about not going back to Godhead after all this ceremony for many years is a waste? I would like to hear how you reconcile that. But just on a quick note, I would like to mention that it is our great fortune to be participating in this ceremony. Whatever is the case, anyone who has a chance to participate is our great fortune. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Shimavara Prabhu. Thank you very much for pointing out that. Yeah, when I said it is a waste, does not necessarily mean that there is no benefit. And I'll give an analogy to express what I meant by waste. If the ultimate goal of spiritual life is to go back to God. And if after so many lifetimes, one comes to the part of devotional service, and all it gets is just some punya or elevation to the higher level of higher planetary system, it is definitely a gain. But when you look at it from the perspective of spirituality and the purpose for the endeavor itself, it becomes a waste, because Abrahma Bhuvana Loka, from the highest planetary system to the lowest planetary systems, they are all places of repeated birth and death. And Prabhupada often will say that even from the highest level of Brahma, if one attains that level, but is still in this conditional life, there is no guarantee of his being able to stay there. It could become even the worst of the worst worm in the stew. So, although some benefit is there, some punya is there, some piety is there, there is no doubt. Devotional service is performed on two levels. One, devotional activities gives us piety. And what is that devotional level? Devotional service that is engaged in under the influence of the three modes of material nature. Although they give some punya, but those punya does not give you liberation, does not give you bhakti. Whether it is in goodness, ignorance, or passion, irrespective of wherever one is placed in those categories of conditional bhakti or devotion, one gets some punya, but that punya does not give him the ultimate purpose of or goal of love of God. So there's some benefit there, but this benefit becomes useless when it does not give you liberation from this death, old age, and disease. And the other side, on the other side of bhakti, is when devotional service is performed in pure goodness or in pure loving prema. This is that there's bhakti and there's prema bhakti. Devotional service that is performed in purity, in pure love of Godhead, gives one going back to Godhead. That is the purpose of bhakti practice. But when one performs devotional service, and the Prabhupada stated that in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10, verse 10, the purport, that when one is in devotional service and his activities is under the influence of the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, his desire for karma or gyan or any of these, he gets the reciprocating results. So one who engages in the Damodara Astakam or the rituals of Damodara Lila in the month of Damodara definitely gets some benefits. But because those activities are still under the influence of the modes, and that is why it is said that unless the grace of Guru and Krishna, no one can get out of the ocean of samsara. So the essence of what I'm trying to portray is that, yes, there is some punya, and even in the Bhagavad Gita 7:28, it is said, Yesham tu anta gata papam, gena mam punya karmana. Te dogba vinimuta, bajanti mam bidavrata. After many, many lives of these repeated pious activities, one gets purified, he gets opportunity to meet a pure devotee. But the activities of the worship of the Lord is not meant for piety. It is not meant for punya. It is meant for love, this relationship with the Lord. And that is where our acharyas want us to go. So when I say that, it is not that it is completely useless, looking at it from the ultimate perspective, But in the context of pure love of God, it becomes useless in the sense that it does not give us liberation from this question of birth and death. And that's what I mean by that. But definitely, even just passing by, hearing the chanting of the holy name can give one's punya. But Krishna will not give prema unless one does these activities in pure art, with sincerity. I hope I explained something. Yeah, Madhava Prabhu.
Well, Madhava Prabhu has a son, but I don't know whether Shrimavara Prabhu has question is a follow-up. If it's a follow-up, you may go ahead before we go to Madhava.
I don't want to make it an argument. Your Prabhu already said some things, so let's just leave that. But like I said, there's so many points, many questions from his presentation, or from your presentation rather, Prabhu. You also mentioned, and you dwell a lot about the super soul, seeing the Lord in the heart. The Lord is indwelling, and our heart is the holiest of the holiest. As much as we understand that, you again mentioned that that is the platform. Seeing the Lord in the heart is the platform of perfection. You describe it in many ways. So I also want you to revisit this, because the Lord is in the heart, sure, but the Lord is everywhere, like you also rightly mentioned. And the first step of God realization is seeing God everywhere, not seeing God in the heart. Seeing God in the heart is the second stage of God realization, and it's very, very hard, very, very hard. So you were trying to make us understand that the Lord is in the heart, as if it is like it's easy for everyone just to see the Lord in the heart, but that is not an easy realization. So the first stage of God realization that is easy for everyone, which it's not so easy, but at least that is the first stage. That is Brahma realization, seeing God everywhere. So I just want you to clarify, because you talk a lot about seeing the Lord in the heart, super soul, and as like everyone needs to know that or realize that instead of going to a holy place to look for God. But I want to mention that seeing the Lord in the heart is not meant for neophytes. It's not meant for ordinary persons. That's just what I want to draw your attention to. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shrimavara Prabhu. The quality of a listener is reflected in the question that the person asks. So it shows how much you are paying attentive, even though the speaker is not a perfect person, but because you're attentively listening. So that brings out the quality of the question you ask. Yes, you're perfectly right. And that is why Krishna told Arjuna. That's why Krishna told Arjuna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna did not talk about Paramatma. He started by Dehinosmi Yata Dehe, that the living entities, and then, like we rightly said, Aham Brahmasmi, that is the beginning of God realization. If one wants to realize the super soul, first he will have to realize himself, and then seeing God in every living entity is when one is able to see on this platform of Brahma realization, like you rightly said. In the context in which I was speaking of the art because in the text that we're reading, the focus was based on going to see to a place where the Lord is residing. Even though the Lord is everywhere, but Lord, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is said to be residing in the region of the heart. And that's why I was emphasizing on that point. But you're perfectly right in your assertion that the first stage of realization is Brahma realization, when one sees God. When I'm Brahmasmi, I'm spirit soul, then one sees God everywhere, that level of spirit, then he sees spirit everywhere. So that is perfectly right. Well, I was speaking in the context of the Brahma Atma because the verse is pointing us to going to places of holy pilgrimage to see the Lord. So I was referencing where the Lord is residing in our present body, specifically for us to focus there. And in trying to get there, of course, we want us to come to Brahma realization first. So your observation is perfectly right. But my focus on that was as a result of the text and the focus of the text that we're reading. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Madhavan Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Madhavan Prabhu?
Madhavan?
It's like he's...
it appears as this is still frozen.
Stay frozen, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else with something to ask or contribute?
No one. If there's no one, I have one more question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, please.
Yeah, sure. Please. Yeah.
Yes. You also said that the goal of our spiritual activities is to go back, ultimately to go back to Godhead. And you repeat that several times. Well, the scripture tells us that there are different types of devotees. You have the salvationists, whose aim is to get liberation. By the Narottamas, their aim is not liberation, their aim is not salvation. So I want you to clarify that the ultimate aim of spiritual activity is to go back to God. But if you look deeper from our teachings and Lord's entire teachings, there seems to be something more than that. And if that becomes our aim, then that means our devotion is again motivated. Yeah. So I would like you to throw more light on that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I love the question so much, Prabhu. That's a beautiful question. You're very right. You're taking us to these points. In the Brahma Samhita, and especially in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 19, 167, immediately you're quoting, saying that. It reminds me of that verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Lila, chapter 19, that the conversation there, where the pure bhakti is being described. It is said that Anya Bilashita Sunyam Gyana Karmadi Anabitam Anukriya Nas Krishna Nusla Nam Bhakti Uttama. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, fruitive action. Devotee must constantly serve Krishna spiritually as Krishna desires. That is the ultimate goal. You are very right. And in the conversation between Lord Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also emphasized this. There are different levels of goal, but in a sadhaka level, at the level of a sadhaka, most oftentimes our focus is that we want to get out of this place first, because that is the first point of our realization. It is said that one should not desire anything, but if at all one wants to desire, one should desire to go to the Lord. And when one goes to the Lord, when one is able to attain that level of going back to God, which is only achievable only by devotional service, at that level, one realizes that kingdom of God becomes something secondary. Then one wants to lovingly serve the Supreme Personality of God. And so Anya Bilashita Sunyam described that the ultimate goal is to become a lover of Krishna, to just desire to please Krishna. That is ultimate. You're very right with that. But in the stage of a sadhaka, our primary goal is that we want to go back to God, which is what every average sadhaka wants to achieve. We want to go back to God. But when one gets to the platform of that, at least it's said that in the beginning stage, one should desire to go back home. Although desire is very wrong. One should not have desire for anything. But in our stage of desire, and I was speaking in the context of that, because on the pure part of bhakti is completely devoid of any desire. And at that level, one simply wants to just express, one wants to love the Supreme Personality of God, wants to please the Supreme Personality of God. That is the pure bhakti. But in the stage of a sadhaka, at least we should desire to go back to God. And when we judiciously pursue that, we'll get to that point where we'll be able to understand the ultimate. So your point is very perfectly correct. Yeah, pure devotional service means desire for nothing, not even the kingdom of God. There are 5 types of liberations. It is described in that, even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 5 levels of liberations. And then going back to God or developing the same body-like form like that of Krishna are all forms of liberation, are all forms of attainment of ultimate goal. But above all of them is that pure love of loving service or prima bhakti, which is what you're referencing. Thank you very much for pointing it out.
Thank you too. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you for, well, as some of you may be aware, His Grace Salika Prabhu just stepped in because our scheduled speaker couldn't be here. We can thank Salika Prabhu for stepping in within such a fraction of moments.
Silvas Vanachari just sent a message. He said, please accept my respectful obeisances. He said, I'm sure by now the class will be over. I taught for 3 hours this afternoon, 3 to 6 p.m. Indian time, after which I broke my fast and decided to rest at 9:30 p.m. Meanwhile, I've circulated the poster for the class to new devotees. I'm so sorry that I've disappointed many devotees, including you, the organizers of this lecture. Please kindly forgive me. It is possible to schedule me soon. That is the message from Srivas Bhattacharya.
Hare Krishna. Madhava Prabhu, please in your name.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Accept my humble obeisances. All glory, all praise to God, Prabhupada, and all the assembly of devotees. Thank you for your very wonderful lecture. When you start your lecture, you started with consciousness. You play emphasis much on consciousness, the consciousness that by which we perform our devotion. And you even make reference to somebody because he wants to go to Mecca, he has to commit murder. And then you also reference some devotees even going to India and coming back. And their behavior is very unbecoming. I think on that strength, I think that's why you say that such practice is to use practice or spiritual practice will be useless because if you want to perform, you want to be a devotee, or you just, okay, like someone who goes to Mecca, for instance, and come back, he's just doing it for his own ego. It's just for ego. Or someone else who went to India for material purpose, just for his ego. I've been to India, I know all the locals up there and all these things. So it's not with pure consciousness. And when we look at this today's topic, you know, when Krishna sent Uddhava to Padarika Ashram, you know, he's trying to compensate him by telling him to go and meet him in Padarika Ashram because he himself is there as an incarnation of Nara and Narayan. So you can see that the consciousness is different. You know, Uddhava is just going there to continue having association of Krishna. And even myself, I'm so curious because from this purpose, it explains to us that this ashram has been there for a very, very long time. And I'm sure this personality is still there by now. So out of curiosity, I imagine how wonderful. I mean, somebody who loves Krishna, we have that curiosity, wants to see those incarnation, Nara and Narayan, what they look like, and they have been from time immemorial. So I quite agree with you when you talk of consciousness, and it matters. Otherwise, without the right consciousness, you are not going to get the right result. That's just my own understanding. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Sriman Madhavan Prabhu. Ultimately, this is all about reminding ourselves, because the spiritual masters have actually told us this over and over time. And the reality is this, that our consciousness is what determines what we experience. Thank you for the emphasis.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I believe, of course, I'm not a mind reader, but I believe what Madhavan Prabhu meant by saying that some people visiting holy places, like he specifically mentioned Mecca, that people are visiting just out of false ego. But I believe he meant to say some, not every single individual that visits Mecca for pilgrimage is visiting out of false ego, just as people visiting India for pilgrimage. Some may be visiting out of false ego, but there are still some who are visiting for pure spiritual purposes. So whoever may be listening to this, I guess, should understand in that understanding that some have the consciousness to just make themselves feel good in the eyes of other people that they have visited the holy place, which is not the sole aim of visiting the holy places. But there are some people who visit holy places because that is the recommendation from the scriptures, and they are sincerely trying to follow the scriptures. So I think I will stop here, and I think we have just about a minute or so if someone has something to share. Otherwise, we'll bring this to a final close. Today is Friday, the last day of the busy working week, and also the last day of Kartik, the last day of Bhishma Panchaka. And it's also there are three different other. Today is the appearance day of Sri Nimbakacharya. There's also Sri Krishna Rasayatra and Sri Shalagram Vivaha. This is the day Srimati Tulasi Devi and the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. This is the celebration of the marriage ceremony of Srimati Tulasi Devi and Lord Sri Krishna. So it's a very special day. With that being said, we may bring this to a close, and we pray to the assembled Vaishnava devotees and the Parampara and Sri Guru and Krishna to help protect, guide us through the weekend and bring us all together next week, where we may have the opportunity to hear more about the glories of Sri Krishna and his dear devotees. And with that being said, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker who just quickly stepped in to speak Krishna Katha with us. Jai.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Vanchakarapatatarubhyaso
Pavanavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai.
Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Salika, you
Jai.
are